There you go. And we're live.
Aren't we just?
We are. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you again. You obviously know me, Karen Lynch, head of content here at Greenbook, but I'm joined today by a special guest, Susan Griffin. Susan, just remind our viewers who you are.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm a marketing consultant. Griffin and Skeggs Collaborative is our company. I've been in this industry since Moses was in Boy Scouts. So, I've seen a lot. The Greenbook team calls me up sometimes when they've got stuff that nobody else has the time to do. And I guess that's the exchange for today. I'm the guest host. No.
You have had the privilege of doing this with Lenny before, but you and I have never had the privilege of doing this before.
Oh my God, that's right. And as I posted on LinkedIn, you are genuinely, Karen, one of my favorite people. No, my favorite person in the industry.
Stop. I love to hear that. So if anybody else feels the same way, you can feel free to let me know, because I am a sucker for a compliment. So, sidebar, like people have talked about like love languages and all that other stuff. Like I'm a words of affirmation person. So like if people say nice things to me, they can get away with almost anything. Like really, I'm a sucker for a compliment. So
like my post, repost it and comment about Karen.
I will print it out and put it on my wall.
But seriously, I mean, the stuff you guys do in the exchange and you personally with the podcasts and just overall the content at Greenbook, it's great stuff. So let's
get into it. Let's stop talking about me. So did you watch the Super Bowl, Susan?
I watched part of it. I won't tell you which part of it. No, I've got Seattle fans in my family, so I was, I was obligated to watch. But I yes, and the ads are always a draw.
It is always a draw, and that is like literally since I got my marketing degree, I have tuned into the Super Bowl specifically for the ads because it's a big deal, right? Now that they release some of them ahead of time. But anyway, I wanted to share that the New York AMA newsletter this week, and Carly has a link to subscribe to the New York AMA newsletter as well, because it's a great newsletter for all of the marketers that are listening. I just love this newsletter. I'm a little biased, but I really like the newsletter as they put it together. Anyway, but they had a link to a CBS News video that ranked the best and worst of the ads across all brands and all categories. And we could probably spend a lot of time talking about that. But you then told me about something that came your way, Susan, which was in a Nielsen email, which we also have. Tell me what you learned about the Super Bowl commercials this year.
It was interesting. So I've been, involved in ad testing back in the days when I was at then Brain Juicer, now System 1 Group. And so Nielsen sent an email. It included their audience measurement ranking, how many people actually saw this Super Bowl versus previous Super Bowls, et cetera. But then they had 3 different takeaways for advertisers, what they should learn from the Super Bowl. And it basically, in a nutshell, they said, by the week, not just the game, i.e. plan for leveraging your investment before, during, and after the game. Leverage all of the screens, leverage all the channels, make separate plans for the strategy for the ad across all the channels in which you're going to distribute it, and incorporate measurement from the start. And I thought about that, and sure, that absolutely applies to big investments in advertising like the Super Bowl, but actually insights people who invest in exhibiting at a conference like IIEX, you got to plan for before, during, and after.
Yeah,
you've got to leverage all the channels in which you are going to telegraph the fact that you'll be at an event, and then you've got to figure out your metrics for success. Yeah. Sure, investing in a kiosk at a conference is a lot smaller than a spot on the Super Bowl, but if that was like, duh, yes.
Yeah.
Plan before, during, and after. leverage all your channels and figure out what your metrics are going to be beforehand and measure. So
Yeah.
that was my takeaway.
I love the forced connection also between, like, yes, this applies for, anybody who's developing an ad campaign, but also then connected to anybody who's a sponsor or anybody who's exhibiting. I love that connection that you made.
Well, it's top of mind, for those of us who look at promoting our brand narrative in live events. It's just, you can't just show up, if you build it, they will come. No, you can't just do that. You've got to really think through how to maximize your investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I see Bridget, by the way, go Seahawks. And Bridget, I was 100% thinking about Kara and Bridget on our team, who are, Seattle-based Greenbook employees. The whole time I was thinking, I hope they're really happy. So I didn't have a stake in this particular game because New York area, it's almost like a lot of us chose the Seahawks.
I got Boston family and I got Seattle family.
Ooh, yeah, we were okay. I have a lot of Boston family, but they weren't with me. So anyway, all good things. I was really, hoping for a win for Kara and Bridget.
But after the Super Bowl, your week turned ugly.
To say the least. We haven't told the people that hosted the Super Bowl party that we went to, but my husband and I were both knocked out with a virus starting Monday morning, a 4-day virus. So I was sick all week yet, and I managed to do a webinar with Thomas Ramsoy from Neurons. So speaking of maximizing potential, let me tell you what they did. And I think Carly can share a link to this particular webinar on demand. They thought through a plan. They bought 2 webinars at once, and they were like, you know what, here's how we want to handle it. We want to present in January, they have a new kind of product for media testing. Speaking of media testing, a new product for media testing called the Creative Loop, which is about using predictive AI and suggestive AI, as well as generative AI, all the different types of AI for the ad work that they're doing. But they said, we're going to present it, but then we're also going to do a follow-up fireside chat to make sure that we kind of fully explain the science behind it. So they had a plan well before they executed against it. They're like, we're doing 2. We want one to be like a presentation. Then we want one to be kind of a Q&A afterwards with a lot of audience engagement. And anyway, I just think it's a stellar example of using different channels, using different methods, and really being spot on with messaging. So I think it's a good example.
Just a quick aside, Karen, for the listeners who don't know what suggestive AI is,
right? And if you look it up, it's also called prescriptive AI. See, this is something. Say what you will about we have many solid, strong, intelligent partners in the industry, but I always learn something from Thomas. And what he explained is generative AI, we all know what that is. And predictive AI, we all know what that is. But suggestive or prescriptive AI is trained actually to give the recommendations, to be the mind that takes in all of the data and then can say, here's what you should do with it. It's a little bit of an LLM that's been trained to be strategic thinking, or a strategic thinking partner. So it's an interesting part of a trifecta that we're not talking about a lot yet in our industry, but we should be. And Thomas is already building it into his models. But yeah, it's either called prescriptive or suggestive AI. So probably we'll hear more because it's a very relevant concept in our industry, right? Because one of the things that we will talk about later is humans in the loop. But anyway, let's just pause on that as I talk about qualitative research a little bit.
Yeah. And there's so much to unpack from QRCA, and you were there on the ground. And so thanks for sharing. And there's a link, right, to what you shared.
Yeah, which is it's a great conversation also happening on LinkedIn. Last week, if you tuned into the exchange last week, Lenny, I did kind of brief Lenny a little bit on my takeaway from the conference. And then this week, I was able to kind of articulate for a LinkedIn post, and I've started drafting some articles that we'll start publishing on Greenbook next week, really about AI moderated interviewing, or AI moderation in general. Sometimes the acronym is AMI, AIMI. And so I started chatting about it online and talking about really where I see it fitting when it comes to share of wallet for research spend. And it's doing a great job compressing the time to results compared to regular qual. It's expanding engagement compared to regular quant. So it's getting qual at scale fully into the mix as a viable option for many brands at this point. That is the word on the street at this conference, is brands are saying we can do survey work, we could do qualitative, or we could do this in between, which is AI moderated qual, which is qual at scale with the help of AI. And so the discussion turned into, when is it directionally the right decision? And knowing it's a viable option, it is perceived as a viable option. And in many cases, speed to insights is going to be more important than depth of insight. And it is going to be up to the insights professional to determine which of those is more critical. Do we need depth of understanding here, or do we need speed here? Yeah. So it's definitely in the consideration set. It is not just explore or experimental at this point. It is a solid option. So we did a lot of discussion happening live. I'll have more articles about it, and I shared that LinkedIn post because it is very interesting. It can outperform some quant. It can't perform as in depth of some qual, but it has a place, and everybody has to just accept it. It's arrived.
And the insights professional who can discern the right solution for the right scenario is going to be the one who's going to add value to their clients.
That's right. So I think for the
we'll hear a little bit more about later in this episode.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, the qualitative researchers, there was a great talk. Again, one of the first pieces I'll write is talking about Lauren McCluskey, who wrote about AI, what people really think about AI moderation. And from a participant standpoint, people who are perhaps used to doing surveys are like, that was great. Like, that was a great experience for me. So we've upped the participant experience, which will help with completion rates, right? Because we know that the respondent experience for survey work is way down. So there's real value to that. But she then kind of dove into specific use cases. And here's the key. She's explored all the tools, and she is now an asset to brands who want to maybe say, hey, let's pilot some AI moderated qual. Will you help us as a consultant? And maybe we'll do some supplementary, human moderated qual to help us understand those results more, bring them to life. But that is a solid positioning. So shout out to her, who was leading the way there for what I think the true qualitative research consultant of the future what it'll look like.
That's great. That's great.
Really cool stuff. So before we get into too much more of that, let's plug some things, shall we? Some shameless Greenbook plugs.
Yes.
Okay, friends, the GRIT survey is still in the field. We really need your help with this. You've probably gotten an email about it. You can get a link here. Probably, one of the links that Carly will share will be a link to take it. We need your help to get these complete. It's in field until February 22nd. So we've got just shy of 10 more days for it. Anything else you want to add there, Susan?
No, just that, this is a way of getting everybody's voices into the results. And so it's important. It's important.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that we are seeing is that more people fill out the survey for the business and innovation wave, because that results in the GRIT top 50, and people are very vested in that for certain reasons. But this one we really need your help with, because it really informs insights practices. And right now, I think insights practices need your input for the good of the greater industry. So that's why this one matters so much.
And what's top of mind, as opposed to interesting but not necessarily something we'll use, that's really important for the industry as well. Yeah. Actually, the other thing that relates to thought leadership is call for speakers is open for IAX AI. Now, that one you got a longer lead time for. It closes in March. However, the call for speakers for AI, this year is going to be trickier for those of you out there who think you have something to say, because it's going to have to be more than just we're doing conversational surveys, or, however you are applying AI, there's going to have to be that potency proof, maybe with case studies or use cases. And it's going to have to be something new, because IAX AI was one of the, if not the most heavily attended virtual event for Greenbook last year. So you got till the end of March to submit to be an organic speaker, but you're going to need all of that time to create a really powerful submission.
And and let me tell you, the because it's a virtual event, the submissions, it's going to be very competitive. We've already gotten some in, which is interesting. So normally we get a big influx sort of the week we close, but we've already gotten some. There are some people that are like on it. So because they've got their idea. This lead time right now, you've got some time. What's going to be the idea that makes it different from last year's event? It can't be the same. We're talking about AI all the time now. So what's going to elevate it to get you on this virtual stage with thousands of people tuning in? So I'm excited for that one, and I can't wait to see what you all bring to me. You've got it in you. I can't wait to see what you can do.
And as for live events, registration is now open for both IAX North America in DC in April and IAX EU in Amsterdam in June. Have I got that right?
You do. And we have a code for all of you listeners. Exchange gets you 15% off the general admission tickets. Go ahead and thank you, Carly. All of these links are available to you. But let's get your registration in at a discounted rate while it's still available. They're going to be great events. I'm really excited for them. I just recorded a podcast with a Futuralist honoree, and they take to the stage, and those are some of my favorite sessions at these events. The brands showing up are great. The partners that are bringing brands to the stage are in greater numbers than ever before. So I'm just really excited this year's events.
And one of the highlights of the live events is the Inside Innovation Competition, which this year will be at North America, EU, and IAX West in the fall.
Yeah, we're not really talking about right now because we've gotten our call for submissions done for IAX West, but we haven't opened up registration or anything like that yet because we're focused on our other events. But this competition, let me tell you, I mean, every now and then something comes up where I think about, and we'll talk about some of our winners later today too, winners from the past. We've had some big names win this competition. This year, we're going to have some other opportunities that are, we have our big winner who gets the $10,000 check and the opportunity to speak, kind of complimentary at next year's event. Winners have been the likes of Zappy and, Dana Kim at Highlight. And of course, we've had, Alfred at Listen. And last year was Rashad at Orchard Insights. Like we've had so many great winners over the years have gone on to do some amazing things. And we're going to also have kind of the choices that are not just crowdsourced. Also, we're going to pull out, this is who the judges said, that's really the winner. And then we'll also have these are the people's choice, because sometimes they're the same, right? Somebody might be like the people choice and the judges. Everybody saw what's really making this a commercially viable product, but we're also going to have those two things.
What this means to you who are out there is the Inside Innovation Competition submissions for the first manifestation of the competition in a live event is for North America, but that submission window is closing soon. I think it's also like either the 21st or the 22nd of February.
February 21.
So, you have nothing to lose, folks.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
Except missing this opportunity to submit and being considered for an Inside Innovation.
Yeah. And yeah, you have nothing to lose. You should definitely not rush the application. You should block some time to do it. Make sure you put your best self forward, because why not? Right. And you don't know what somebody's going to see. And it's definitely worth it. And even if you've entered before and you did not win last year, enter again. The judges will look at everything fresh, and got to play to win.
Last year's winner, Orchard, actually was a finalist the previous year.
Yeah.
Didn't win, but won last year. So you got to be in it to win it, guys.
And they were a great example of kind of iterating and saying, okay, what do we need to do differently this year? Because it might be the same product, right? But your presentation, your pitch, everything has to come together. And anyway, great example of somebody that pulled it all off. So all right, let's get into some stuff, because Susan, I'm talking for 20 minutes and we haven't even gotten to like news.
Okay.
No,
we knew that was going to be.
We knew that was going to happen.
That was predictable. AI said that was predictable.
AI said that was predictable. Yes. So, okay. If you have not seen a viral post from somebody named Matt Shumer, this is your permission to go down the rabbit hole later today. Matt Shumer is a tech entrepreneur and an investor, CEO and co-founder of something called Other Side AI, which is behind a writing assistant called HyperWrite. So the AI tool, big AI investor and entrepreneur. And he wrote this blog post, this article post. It's a LinkedIn newsletter. It went viral. It's been all over X, millions of views, LinkedIn, millions of views. And following up on this, because I've been tracing this story before we talk about what's in it, he was interviewed on CNN last night, and lots of business magazines have picked up on it. Business Insider's reported kind of what some other AI scientists and leaders are saying in response to him. So he poked bear with this essay. And for those who, have no idea what I'm talking about, we'll share the link to his post on LinkedIn, but he's basically framing the magnitude of the AI, changes for non-tech audience. And he says in here, and I'll quote, and then I want you to hear Susan's take. This might be the most important year of your career. Work accordingly. I don't say that to stress you out. I say it because right now there's a brief window where most people at most companies are still ignoring this. The person who walks into a meeting and says, I used AI to do this analysis in an hour instead of 3 days, is going to be the most valuable person in that room. Not eventually, right now. He goes on to say, learn these tools, et cetera, et cetera. So at first glance, it's a provocative post, right? Which, look, Susan just twitched a little bit. She's like, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. And we've gotten some rebuttal posts as well. But Susan, go ahead and tell us your take right away. Because when you saw this yesterday,
I read this, I read the article, and I looked at, I used AI to do this analysis in an hour instead of 3 days. And so I'm going to be the most valuable person in the room. And, what I felt like was that the most valuable person in the room is going to be the person who did the analysis in an hour rather than 3 days, and basically said, and this is what I learned about that analysis versus what I could have gotten in 3 days. And here's where we damn well better use this. And here's where we might want to think through. It's kind of like what you said earlier, Karen, in terms of, the AI moderated call. The person in the room is not going to be who's most valuable, is going to be the person who can then advise everyone else as to how and when and with what caveats we are going to use this tool. Not that it's the fastest.
Yeah.
And that I sat with for a while. And then last night, Karen, you shared with me an article you found that is kind of, it's not the point counterpoint, but it's more contextualized. It's from a woman named Anne Handley. So you found it, Karen. You frame it up in terms of.
Yeah. So she's a digital marketer, content expert, chief content officer of Marketing Profs, the organization. Find her on LinkedIn. She's got something like 500,000 followers. She's an author, but she argues that she points to this post of Matt's, but she says we should replace this AI panic with sharper questions, better briefs, so insights teams can focus on, framing audience needs. So what she's saying is figuring out what we need to think about the AI input is how we are helpful. The friction between idea and expression, between intention and execution, is not frivolous. That's where the thinking happens, is a verbatim. We need to, so again, she's in the context of like marketing. We need to connect some dots for people, but the idea is just our brains. It's not just speed of analysis. It's what our brains then do with that analysis.
Right. And she used some incredible analogies relating to, okay, so Matt talks a lot about lawyers using AI, right?
Yeah.
And she talks about how you don't hire the lawyer because they can do something faster. You hire the lawyer, and she uses the term judgment. They have the judgment to know how to frame an argument in front of a court, in front of a jury. This whole idea, she talks about judgment, which I found to be very interesting, because earlier in the week, Rashad Chowdhury from Orchard Insights, our winner of the competition last year, posted a comment on LinkedIn about a Harvard Business Review piece that explores how workers develop good judgment in the era of AI. And they said AI simultaneously increases the need for judgment and erodes the experiences that produce it. And Rashad dug back into his own experience, and I'll read what he said, because I think it's really important. He said, I learned about judgment by being in the weeds, by making mistakes, missing things, realizing after the fact what I should have noticed. And that's how I still continue to build judgment.
Yeah.
It reminded him of his early MapQuest days, for those of you who remember MapQuest. People blindly following directions into places that clearly didn't make sense.
Yeah.
The tech worked right up until judgment was required. So the question that I'm sitting with is, I'm quoting him, as leaders rush to implement AI, how are we designing organizations where judgment still develops, especially for folks earlier in their careers?
Absolutely.
And as AI, we talk about how AI is going to remove the things that are, manually intensive, and there are a lot of jobs that are going to go away that juniors used to do. Yes, but how then are we going to take juniors and give them the learned experience, the falling down that teaches judgment? I should have noticed that. And as Anne says, she's not a Luddite. She uses AI. It's just the corollary that I wish I had heard in Matt's post. But there are enough people out there who are sharing that voice. So judgment, the endangered species.
Endangered species, which is judgment, and the opportunity to learn judgment, right? That's what we need to offer. So friends, look, I will tell you this. So Carly can share all of these links from this section, because there's still so much to cover, Susan. We're 28 minutes in. I'm the time.
Okay.
I know, it's ridiculous. But I highly recommend you go down a rabbit hole on Reddit. There's a subreddit thread for artificial intelligence. Check out what they're saying about this post, the original post from Matt Shumer, and you can see the good, bad, and the ugly, and all of these anonymous opinions. It's an interesting read. It will stimulate your thinking on the subject matter. And our collective 2 cents is don't forget judgment. So, all right, we have to talk about some news items, because there were some, not as many as we'd like to get to, because we're a half an hour in already. But we must talk about Rep Data and their acquisition of Redem, because that's a big deal for those of you who are following kind of data quality providers in our industry. Yeah, Susan, what do you think about this?
Well, I saw it, and what I came away with was, this consolidation isn't an indication that the fraud detection is going away. If anything, it got me thinking about all the other companies that are talking about fraud detection. And every time there's a more powerful detection system, the fraudsters get more clever and innovative in terms of how they are going to create survey fraud. So, there's a whole bunch of people who are still out there. I mean, God bless, rep data and redam 1 + 1 may equal 5, but you can't swing a dead cat and not find people from sample companies to people like Kantar claiming fraud detection tools.
Yeah.
And there's some suspicion that it's so complex that you don't need just one.
Yeah. So I think there's probably people that are now saying, okay, at least now maybe I can lean towards one at least, for some of our needs. So, I think my takeaway on all this is cool. So now we've got kind of an end-to-end solution, that can maybe cover a couple of different needs with this partnership. Really take a look at what they offer. Like, I think for anybody who is listening who has not gotten their data quality tools in place, this is a good time to do research. See what this acquisition now sets them up for. See what the others in the industry are doing, and do something. Don't do nothing. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, a couple of product launches that I want to hit. One of them, Susan, speaking of the Super Bowl and Nielsen, what they're doing. I don't know if you saw this, but they introduced a co-viewing methodology to better capture audiences. And they started with this Super Bowl, incorporating a wearable measurement device. So like, instead of, you doing your Nielsen log after the fact, they're seeing, they're like, no. We're going to just check your
skin response. I've seen this movie, Neuroscience. Remember the days when we had fMRI and people were going to strap diodes to your head? Yes, we're capturing synapses snapping. Yes. But what do they mean? Why did I get excited when I saw the Coinbase ad? Did I get excited because I was saying WTF? I mean,
well, yes, we could talk about it.
Any methodology that's going to get to implicit response, I suppose, is a good one. But I don't know. My smartwatch tells me some different things. But anyway,
my Oura Ring says, "Go back to bed, honey."
Yeah, exactly.
All it's been saying all week is
exactly. But what else did we get?
Vox Popme, they introduced something called Compass, an autonomous research partner analyzing past projects, also to recommend new work.
This I loved, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of knowledge management tools that are out there that are going to give you the ability to be able to look back into other research you've done to say, didn't we ask this question before?
Yeah.
This, if it lives up to the promise, is saying, you asked this before, but here's how you might want to think about asking it again within the context of how things have changed, and how you can ask it differently. So this was really interesting to me.
Yeah. So UX teams and CX teams, start mining that historical data. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good one. So we have one other launch which kind of leads into our for later reading of this episode. But Listen introduced a new product called Research Agent this week, which basically it takes a look at any data from any other study and will do some of that data synthesis. So they're moving beyond just the conversational AI, the ecosystem that they created with their tool, right, about doing qual at scale. And now they're moving into, this research agent, which does this analysis of data.
Yeah. I mean, there's this whole idea about AI agents who will do things for you.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of companies talking about, well, we need an agent that is research specific. So I think we're going to hear a lot more companies banting about with this 2-word phrase, research agent.
Yeah.
And the devil's going to be in the details.
Yeah.
What are these agents really doing for you?
Yeah.
And so more to come, obviously, but let's see some use cases, some proof case, some case studies.
Yeah. Yeah.
To actually get a better definition of what this really means.
Yeah. And how are they built? How are they trained? Like, I think these are great examples for it to be like, okay, how have you taught your research agent so that we know that the synthesis that they're doing feels up to snuff, right? Because they may not have learned judgment. I don't know if you can see Nancy on our team chimed in saying the opportunity to learn judgment is her motto for 2026. The opportunity to learn judgment. So
I want a quarter every time you use that, Nancy. But there were some other LinkedIn posts this week that really are pause for thought, and coming from some folks who've got some street cred in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So Steve Phillips, you probably saw Steve Phillips from Zappy, by the way, speaking of competition winners. And Listen was a competition winner. We have to, kind of always shout out these friends of ours who are. But Steve Phillips laid out kind of why using Claude Code in research. So Claude Code is, another tech rabbit hole to go down, learning what it's all about from Anthropic, but why insights leaders should watch this developer tool and its implication for kind of our research workflows. Basically, it's a development tool that allows anybody to be a developer. And so pay attention, right? Steve's post is a bit of a cautionary tale. But also what will happen is that anybody can create research agents right now pretty easily. So we have to be paying attention to what they're doing. And, we really have to look under the hood, I think, and see, what's coming out. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Plenty of good, credible entrepreneurs will be showing us their agents, but there will probably also be some that are not that great, not up to snuff. So you have other thoughts on that?
Yeah, just, it's interesting. I talked to some folks whose development teams have been using the AI tools. And one of the comments that was shared was, it does things so fast, but my brain hurts because it used to be, I had these interstitial moments where I could be thinking about the structure of the code that I was building. Now that time for reflection is taken away. So I'm just wondering if in these tools that are making everything more efficient and making everything faster, if we can just have that pause for, how are we going to QA this stuff?
Yeah.
And it's inevitable that's going to come. And, that process itself may be faster and enabled by AI, but, that comment I made about Matt's thing, the person in the room who's most valuable is not the person who says, I did this in 2 hours versus 2 days. It would be, and this is the difference in what I got out of that. But then you found something else.
So, Kevin Carty, he's the CEO and co-founder of Intuify. He posted about a Qualtrics demo arguing that training AI on organization-specific data materially boosts task performance and usability for CX and insights work. So a well-trained LLM is actually going to perform really well. So there's that concept again of, is speed to market really the goal, or is a quality product really the goal, right? And I think that what we can all say is say what you will about Qualtrics, but they have quality product. That's been right from the beginning. That's
right.
They were able to do what they do. So I thought this was really interesting too. So training AI on organization-specific data boosts task performance. So if it's it's well trained on very specific data, you might have a great outcome there.
Right. And specificity counts.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we know this in research. I mean, people who specialize in healthcare have got some really strong chops in terms of the science that goes into disease states and the chemistry behind how drugs work. You know, that's a very specific core competency. And I think that is what is being inferred here. Train around things that are specific to the business problems you're solving.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, all these companies have to figure out how to articulate their own brand story to differentiate how they're better at doing this than their competition. And that's my marketing story, and I'm sticking.
and then of course my shameless plug again is then get yourself in front of people who are coming to an IAX event to learn about these new technologies. I mean, it is the place to go to explore what's new, explore who's doing what, explore all these tools, and the way you can implement them. So we end with 2 shameless plugs there in a way, right, Susan?
Well, then let's tie it all the way back. And if you come to an IAX event, you get to meet Karen in person.
Stop. Just add it to the list of benefits to attend.
Oh my God, this was super fun.
I'm so glad you joined us. Thank you. By the way, just so you all know, Lenny is off with his family and, was therefore not able to join us. And because I was sick this week, I was unable to figure out what to do until my fever broke. I kept saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then my fever breaks yesterday. So I'm like, oh, I've come out of the fog. I don't have to cancel. Susan.
Yes.
Yesterday. So very quick on your end. Thank you.
This is like the understudy getting called saying, the leading lady is out sick. Not that Lenny's a leading lady, but, I think I might use that. But the leading lady's out sick. So can you be at the theater by 6?
Theater by 6. So yes. And to Nancy's point, said, what about meeting Susan in person? Susan, you will be at these events this year.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't miss it. To see you in person, Karen.
Thank you. Well, and it is a mutual feeling. And also Nancy, come on, really, we win all around. And Bridget, we win all around. So
yeah, all right, folks, in person, it can't be beat. So see you at IAX.
See you at IAX, and I will see the rest of you next week when Lenny is back. And
the leading lady will be back. Woo!
There's so much I can say that I'm not saying right now.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week. Susan, thank you so much.
It's fun. Thanks, Karen.
Bye, everyone.
And Carly, thank you.